What would you do if you realized that your favorite snack contains ingredients that have been banned in Europe, Japan, Australia, and probably even more countries you forgot existed, but are still sold proudly on American shelves? Would you still eat it? Well, if you lived in the US, you might be already eating it. Not once, not occasionally, regularly. Like it's your patriotic duty. This video isn't about fear-mongering. You're not about to get a crash course in conspiracy theories or be told to throw out everything in your pantry. Unless your pantry's 80% neon orange, then maybe. But you are about to see the cracks in the system that decides what makes it into your food and what somehow still sneaks in like it's wearing a disguise. Let's dive into how ingredients banned overseas are still sold in the US,
has opened her eyes to what's allowed in food in the US,
and why some of the world's top chefs are calling it out like a bad special on a chalkboard menu. To understand why the US still gives the green light to ingredients that other countries banned ages ago, you've got to look at how its food rules were built in the first place. Spoiler: they were shaped decades ago by people who thought sugar was a vitamin and cigarettes cured stress. And somehow, those choices still affect what ends up in stores today. Food regulation in America officially kicked off in 1906 with the creation of the FDA, sparked by public outrage over contaminated meat and products that probably should have come with a skull and crossbones label. Since then, the FDA has been the main watchdog, though some might say it's less guard dog, more golden retriever taking a nap in the sun. Meanwhile, across the pond in Europe, food safety is guided by the precautionary principle, which basically means if there's even a whiff of risk, we're not putting it on the menu. The US, on the other hand, we tend to go with, let's wait until someone grows a third arm, then we'll talk. Instead of requiring companies to prove their ingredients are safe before using them, the US often gives them the benefit of the doubt until proven guilty, with snacks already on shelves. And then there's the magical loophole called GRAS, or generally recognized as safe. Sounds reassuring, right? Well, here's the twist. Companies can decide for themselves that an ingredient is safe, and they don't even have to tell the FDA. So yes, something could end up in your breakfast cereal without ever being independently tested. Because apparently, trust us, it's fine, is an acceptable food safety protocol. And trust me, that's not all. We also need to talk about America's favorite seasonings: lobbying. The food industry spends hundreds of millions of dollars to cozy up to lawmakers, delay bans, and keep regulations nice and squishy. Reform? That means redesigning labels, reworking formulas, and worst of all, cutting into profits. That's a tough sell, even when the alternative might be cancer-flavored cupcakes. So while Europe is over there buckling up their food safety belts like a strict hall monitor, America's system stays, let's say, athletically elastic. Real stretch waistband energy. And that's how we've ended up here, munching on ingredients that other countries have already kicked off the global buffet. Take red dye number 3 for example. This flashy little chemical has been linked to cancer in animal studies. Europe took one look and said, hard pass. But in the US, you'll still find it waving proudly inside cake mixes, candies, and yes, even kids' medicine. Europe banned it. America, we slapped a warning label on it and basically said, just don't chug it. Then there's brominated vegetable oil, or BVO if you're into acronyms that sound like sci-fi villains. It's used to stop citrus flavors from separating in soft drinks because, oh, forbid your soda isn't perfectly united. It's banned in over 100 countries, including Japan and the entire EU. But here in the US, still technically allowed. Though to be fair, some big brands have started removing it, but only because consumers raised eyebrows, not because the government stepped in. Apparently, public outrage is a more effective regulator than the actual regulators. But here's the thing. A ban doesn't always mean something is instantly deadly. It's not cyanide. Sometimes it just means regulators decided, yeah, this sketchy chemical isn't worth the risk. Especially when safer, better options are literally sitting right there. The US approach? Less, better safe than sorry. More, let's not hurt the economy's feelings. Other countries see a red flag and hit the brakes. America sees a red flag and goes, but how red is it, really? It's not that the rest of the world is paranoid, it's that they've collectively decided public health shouldn't be a gamble. Meanwhile, we're still out here arguing if it's fine to color kids' cereal with the same chemicals used in industrial floor sealant. Spoiler, it's not fine. No one's craving Fruit Loops with a polyurethane finish. So when you see labels like banned in the EU, not approved in Canada, or restricted in Australia, it's not fear-mongering. It's food policy whiplash. Everyone else is playing chess with food safety. The US still playing hungry hippos. And behind all the Michelin star and instant-worthy plating, American chefs are quietly losing their minds. They're busting their backs to source organic meals, fresh produce, heirloom grains. And then, bam! Mystery ingredient sneaks in through the back door like chemical party crashers. Labels are vague. Regulations are looser than overcooked noodles. And even the pros are asking, wait, what did I just serve? Some chefs say they wouldn't give these ingredients to their own kids, yet wonder why they're being expected to serve these ingredients to guests? It puts them in a tough spot, especially since clean label alternatives can be hard to find and often much more expensive. For small independent restaurants, avoiding banned additives means committing to extra work. They end up hunting down imported ingredients or making condiments from scratch just to steer clear of chemicals that wouldn't even be allowed in another country. That level of dedication requires extra time, money, and a lot of patience. On the flip side, chefs in Europe or Canada don't have to fight this battle. Their supply chains are built with different standards. Actual deal with these ingredients that other countries won't even allow on store shelves. Let's start with artificial dye like red 40 or yellow 5. These colors might make your cereal or candy look more fun, but studies have raised some serious concerns, especially when it comes to kids. In Europe, products with these dyes often carry warning labels for potential links to hyperactivity and attention issues, but in the US, they're just part of breakfast. Then there's BHA, also known as butylated hydroxyanisole. It sounds like something that should be in a chemistry lab and not your bag of chips. It's actually a preservative used to keep fats from going rancid. However, in animal studies, BHA has been linked to tumor growth. The World Health Organization classifies it as possibly carcinogenic to humans. Yet, it's still widely used in the US, and you won't see any warning labels on the package. Potassium bromate is another big one. It's added to bread and bakery products to strengthen dough and make it fluffier. However, research has connected it to kidney and thyroid tumors in lab animals. That's why it's banned in the UK, Europe, and even China. In the US, it's still legal. Now, like we said earlier in the video, this isn't about fear-mongering. We're not saying every bite is a health hazard, but when you've got a growing body of research raising red flags and other countries taking action to protect their citizens, you just can't help but ask why the US hasn't followed suit. Well, it all comes down to transparency and the right to make an informed choice. If an additive might impact your health, shouldn't you at least know what you're consuming? Shouldn't that decision be yours to make? Because once you know what's in your food, you can start asking better questions. And maybe demand better answers. Now, if you're wondering why these questionable ingredients are still on our shelves after learning about their potential health risks, the answer lies in dollars and cents. Food companies rely on additives like preservatives and artificial colors because they extend shelf life. That means less waste, lower production costs, and bigger profits. Shipping a loaf of bread that won't mold for weeks or a bag of chips that stays perfectly golden for months keeps budgets in check. It's simple math. When products last longer, companies save money. And let's not forget the lobbying machine we mentioned earlier. Big food corporations aren't just playing the game, they're funding the referees. They pour millions into influencing lawmakers and regulators, quietly sponsoring studies that, surprise, tend to downplay health risks. And they fight proposed warning labels like their profits depend on it. Because they do. When a country tries to ban an ingredient, these companies push back with their favorite phrase, insufficient evidence. And every time a government agency floats stricter rules, an army of lobbyists marches in to shut it down faster than you can say artificial flavor. Now that doesn't mean change never happens, it just moves at the speed of bureaucracy in a molasses storm. And in the meantime, where does that leave the rest of us? Especially the chefs out here trying to serve real food in a system built for shortcuts? Well, here's the encouraging part. A growing number of chefs aren't waiting for the rule book to catch up. They're rewriting their menus, one ingredient at a time. Some are sourcing produce directly from local farms. Others are going fully organic or cutting out processed ingredients altogether. They're not just cooking, they're quietly revolting. One clean plate at a time. Take Alice Waters, for example. Long before organic was trendy or Whole Foods had a marketing department, she was running Chez Panisse with a simple belief: real food should come from real farms, not factories. For Alice, flavor wasn't separate from ethics. When she says the processed food system has dulled our palates and distanced us from our food, it's not just nostalgia talking, it's decades of experience. And that's why she not only spends her life cooking, but educating as well by planting gardens in schoolyards and giving kids the tools to demand better. And just when you think the movement can't go deeper, we also have Dan Barber. At Blue Hill and Stone Barns, he's flipped the menu inside out. He's questioned not only additives but the entire culture of uniform industrial ingredients. To him, not only do additives pose serious health questions, but they also erase the diversity of flavor and the reason we fell in love with food in the first place. Then there's José Andrés, who brings that same fire but aims it at the bigger picture. Sure, he's a chef but also a humanitarian, an activist, and someone who's fed millions during disasters. He's been vocal about how food systems fail people, how regulations overtook the basics, and how even a small change, like clearer labeling, could mean everything. And of course, you can't leave out Tom Colicchio. You might know him from Top Chef, but behind the cameras, he's a straight-up food policy pitbull. Tom has gone to Washington, lobbied Congress, and repeatedly called out how broken the regulatory system is. He's frustrated that chefs are expected to create magic with ingredients they wouldn't dare serve their own kids. All of these chefs, different in style and background, are saying the same thing. If food is culture, if it's a connection, if it's care, then we need to stop settling for additives, shortcuts, and asterisks. Real food might take more effort, but the alternative? That's what we're already living with. At the end of the day, it's not just scientists, chefs, or lawmakers shaping what ends up on our plate. It's us. Real change begins with tiny decisions about what we buy, where we eat, and who we support. Every label we read, every chef we stand behind, every food brand we question, it all adds up. Food should nourish us, not confuse us. And while we might not be able to fix the whole system overnight, we can demand better with every bite. So if this video made you take a second look at your pantry or gave you a new appreciation for the chefs trying to do it right, go ahead and hit that like button. Share it with someone who geeks out over food as much as we do. Hungry for more truth on your plate? Subscribe and join the conversation.